Hey everybody, today I will be going over using the trace feature on the ArcDroid, some of the different tools that we can find in the trace feature. So, if you're drawing out a shape or, you're trying to make a part, something that you've got drawn out, I highly recommend using the laser stylus. You can buy it separately from Arc because you're just going to have the regular stylus that comes with the ArcDroid. The laser stylus is a game changer for me and has allowed me to make much more accurate parts, better radius, tighter curves, better everything. This is what we're talking about right here. It has a button right here that you can mark your points with, but this is a laser stylus. I'll be doing a video on this here shortly and uploading it. So right now I've just got my torch hooked up. My plasma cutter that I have hooked up to this is an Everlast 62i plasma cutter, and when I bought it, I purchased it with the CNC torch package. So it has a CNC torch. Later down the road, I bought a hand torch. I believe it's a 16-foot or a 20-foot hand torch. It's not an Everlast brand. I think it came from Plasmadyne or something like that. But yeah, so a little bit of information on the plasma cutter. It works great for me. I've cut up to 3/8 thick mild steel with it with no problem. I'd like to get into some thicker material like 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 inch here in the future. So with the trace feature, what you see available here is we can do lines, we can do circles, we can do squares, we can do polygons, triangles, and then we can do hole patterns. So I'm just gonna go back out. So what happens here is you have to home your ArcDroid and then you have to zero it. We're already zeroed. I'm just gonna zero right there. And then I'm gonna zoom in on that spot, trace. All right, so let's trace something, right? Let's make let's just do a simple like triangle, right? So all I'm doing right now is I'm getting it lined up exactly where I want it, this is just a demonstration. So this is a piece, I'm working on a mini bike swing arm right now. And this piece on this drawing is what my rear shock is going to hook up to. There's gonna be basically 2 of these and the shock is gonna sandwich in between them. But if you see on here, I got my circles, I got every spot marked, all those little circles. So the 1, 2, 3 circles in the top of the drawing, with the check mark right in the middle of them, those are holes. So those are basically 3 separate holes that are gonna be, so I can adjust the shock angle if I want to. But all these other ones around the edge, around the perimeter, those are points where I would mark with my laser. And that just, it's so accurate. The parts come out exactly the same size, everything. For your holes you do, and I'll show in here, for your holes, you do your size adjustments and everything, inner diameter of the holes in here. So let's just do a triangle. So I'm gonna mark 1 point, okay? And then I'm gonna move. I'm gonna mark another point, okay? So now we got a line. And then I'm gonna come, I just do right there, boom. And then for me to just, so I don't have a piece of paper down with me right now, all I'm doing to complete this triangle is I'm just trying to get it lined up on that first line up in the corner. Boom. Now this says closed, okay? So this means it's closed. Your lead, so your lead, I have 1/4 of an inch, right? 0.250. You can change that, say if you were right on the edge of the material, you could change it to 0.125, which is 1/8 of an inch. And you see that our yellow line right here, and then, so this is your left cut. And you gotta be mindful of this because if you do a right cut, let's see what happens. If you do a right cut, this yellow line ends up on the inside. So that's a center cut. We're not doing center cuts. I never do center cuts. Right cut, all right? So what you end up, if you cut here, it would start in here and it would cut outwards to the edge and then start cutting the perimeter of this piece. You don't want that. That's a mistake I made quite a bit when I first started doing this. But I mean, once you start doing things and getting used to it, you'll get the hang of it. So we're just gonna go back to left cut. I just leave it at 0.125 because it doesn't matter, right? Okay, now let's just say this is some kind of gusset or something. That's not a perfect triangle, but just to make a realistic, you know, something somewhat realistic. So it's closed. Okay, now if you leave it open, you know, so if you're cutting out a part and you want the whole part to fall out, let's make sure it's closed. Okay, entry. So entry is where the cut enters. So this is probably, so this is 0, right? So if I put 1, it put it over here, right? 2 is going to be another corner. 3, I don't know. They don't have one. So actually they do. It's right there. Okay. So let's just go back to 0 and then just, you know, we'll leave it how it is. All right. Also, these screens, when they start getting dust and plasma cutting dust and all this other stuff on them, they become a little less responsive when you touch, you know, but you can zoom this thing out. You can move it around. All right, so let's add a circle to this, right? Let's just say this is like some kind of corner gusset for like a, I don't know, like an automotive frame or some kind of 2x3 or 2x4 steel you're putting together, right? So I want, and then if you see while I'm moving the plasma torch, you can see the green dot moving. So that represents me moving that torch around. I want to put a circle right in the middle. So I've clicked circle, I'm gonna hit circle. That's a big circle. Your D is your diameter of the circle. So let's just say I want a 5/8 inch circle. So we're gonna put 0.625 for 5/8. That's a little small. Let's do 1.25 inch circle. All right, cool. Yeah, let's just do 1 inch. Oh, 0.1. Ooh, that ain't gonna work. 1. All right, 1 inch. All right, now let's look at this. You know, our cut right here is a left-hand cut. So let's just hit green. All right, left-hand cut. We don't want that. On circles, or if we want holes in the material, we want it to fall out, we don't want to have any, you know, lead-in lines or anything in the material, we're doing a right cut, okay? Now, what I like to do, you know, from my experience working with the ArcDroid, I like to do half the diameter of the circle for my lead-in, you know? So we're gonna do the lead, it says it's 0.125, which is 1/8 of an inch. We're gonna do 0.50, okay? So that means the start's gonna cut here, the cut's gonna start here and, you know, come out. That's just my preference. You can do what you want, but I've had great results doing half of the whole diameter as the lead-in. All right, so entry doesn't really, it doesn't matter. It's a hole. So we're gonna do that. So what we've got is a little gusset. Now I'm gonna zoom out of this. Let me show you something. This is really helpful. I use this for flanges. I had a guy where I was making two stands for him, one for his bench grinder and one for his vise. And he brought me these really big semi-truck brake drums, and I cleaned them up and painted them and all this other stuff. But I had to make a flange basically that sat on top and had big holes. I want to say, the hardware that I used for it was 7/8 inch, diameter hardware. So, but this really helped out a lot. So let's go, we'll just go right here. And I'm gonna go out of here. I'm not gonna save this, I'm still gonna be there. So you don't have to save it, it'll still be there. But what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna zero, that didn't really help. So if you ever wanna clear whatever's on this, what we're gonna do, you just go to load and you hit clear, all right? And then when you hit load, it's gonna pull up all these different, like these are little things that I've made. Let me show you this part. All right, load, and then we have swing arm shock bracket. That was my first one that I made, and that was based off of a drawing. But this one has 6 holes, and then let's do load, swing arm shock mount. That's the one. That's this. Okay, so you can pretty much honestly make, especially if you're a guy like me, I make a lot of small parts for stuff. This thing's perfect, man. The only time when the ArcDroid is not great is when people are asking you to make larger parts. And we'll get into the capabilities of the ArcDroid in another video. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna load, we're gonna hit clear, okay, boom. So we don't have anything on here. And then what I'm gonna go is go back into trace. I'm gonna hit the, the button that has the circle on it, and I'm gonna go to this one, right? And I'm just gonna hit, so look what we got here. So this is 6 holes, all right? Let's do 10 holes, right? Boom. And let's do, the angle really doesn't matter too much. The sweep is 360. Let's do, so the whole diameter, let's do 0.375, right? That's 3/8 of an inch. And then the diameter, so the diameter is the white circle in here, right? And when you're measuring the diameter, you're measuring from the center of one circle to the center of the circle directly opposite of it, okay? That's how you're getting the diameter, you know what I'm saying? So if you're going and measuring holes on a flange or something like that, make sure that's what you're doing. You're measuring from center to center. A lot of flange, hole patterns, lug pattern, wheel lug patterns and all this other stuff. A lot of that stuff's online. So you might, that's what I do sometimes. I'll go pull it. I'm like, oh, okay, this is, 5 on 5.5 or, whatever it is, 5 holes on 5.5 inches, spread, diameter, center or distance, center to center from the holes opposite of each other. Okay, so let's just do, 2.326 is pretty small. So let's just do like 6.5 inches, right? You see, and it spreads it out. And then we can change the whole diameter. Let's just do 1 inch. Boom, okay? So we can do that, and now check this out. Now, what if I want a hole in the middle, right? I'm still 0. So if I hit this button right now, it's gonna put a circle directly in the middle, right? And let's just do a 1 inch diameter circle. Boom, we got a circle in the middle, or, a hole in the middle for whatever, maybe you need to run a shaft or something, whatever it is. Also, a lot of people might not know this, but when you make flanges and like plates for casters for the bottom of your tables and stuff, if you have a hole in the center of the piece of plate, doesn't matter if it's rectangle, round, whatever, it helps with warpage, okay? So that's something useful to put. A lot of times these things are out of sight. So let's add, so that's a 1 inch one, boom. And then let's add another circle on the outside. All right, and then, so we went 6.5 spread. So let's just do like let's just do a 8.5 inch, see? So here we go, all right? Now, remember, when you're doing circles, if you're adding a circle like that to the outside, what you need to do, your lead needs to be left cut, okay? So, and then what I would do, if I want to cut this out, just like this, I would go back and this is your settings. So what you can do, this is kind of cool. This is kind of, I guess we'll get into pattern real quick too, is let's move this whole thing, right? So, right, we're moving it over. I don't want it right there on the edge. Oh, let's move it up, okay? Up is right. Your y-axis, if you twist the knob to the right, it's up. To the left, down. X-axis, to the left, it's to the left. To the right, is to the right, okay? So let's pattern this. Pattern is where, say if I wanted 4 of these. All right, so your y-axis. So that's going up. And then what you can do with your distance is you can either put these numbers, but it's easier to just, oh, hold on. I hit the wrong one. All right, so y-axis, go into pattern. Let's go into, oh, I already messed that up, whatever. Yeah, there's not a whole lot I can do with that right now. That kind of sucks. Let's go reverse some of this stuff. So we got like a back button, you can use it some, but this is taking pretty much everything off of here. But you can do that. Let's just go back into pattern and see if I can get this right. Pattern. All right, let's do, I want to go left to right, so I'm doing the x-axis on this. Let's just do 2, okay? Boom, there's 2. and then distance between the x-axis. All right. What I like to do is nest them as close as I can. So you got to kind of zoom in, make sure none of your lead-in points are running into each other. But that's basically how you pattern, right? And then let's say if I wanted another two, boom. And then on my y-axis distance, I'm gonna spread it out. All I'm doing is turning this knob to the right, kind of zoom in, and then keep going until we have a gap and our lead-ins aren't touching, you know, but that's sufficient, you know, clearance to, you know, and that's for the same part right there. So that's how we do that. And then, you know, if it's something that you want to keep, we're gonna hit save, we're gonna hit rename. Another important thing about when you're saving things is you need to already go into your tune settings, right? And like say if this is 1/4 inch material that the unit is sitting on right here, you know, so I'm like, oh, you know what, I don't wanna save it yet. I wanna just cancel it and hit exit, and then I will go into my tune and I already have my pre-saved settings, you know, and I would hit on 0.25, which is 1/4 inch. And then I would hit save. So we're going to trace, hit the save button, rename it to whatever you want, and then hit save, exit, your file is saved. And then what I can do is hit load, and then you know, don't hit anything, just hit the back button, clear it out, and then go to load. And then here's, I didn't really name this file, but click it, boom, there we go. And then all you have to do is hit live, you know, you go into your auto level, we're already auto leveled, you know, you hit the torch button right here, we're on live. But let's just see, you know, if we hit, take that off, let's just